So one of the places where dendritic cells could be very important in medicine is in vaccine design, and our lab is looking at it, and so are other labs. So let's just think a little about a vaccine. What a vaccine is typically an infectious agent, like the polio virus. And that virus is inactivated, or it's attenuated, so that it is less virulent, so that it can no longer cause polio. And you then administer that vaccine, typically by an injection under the skin or into a muscle, and the immune system takes that information and develops resistance to the vaccine, in this case the polio example that I brought up, so that when you would be exposed to the real polio virus, you have the capacity to reject it and prevent the body from being infected. But now along comes a situation like the AIDS virus. What we found is that when the AIDS virus interacts with the dendritic cell provides it a home that allows the virus to be transported to the lymphocytes where the virus then replicates. So the evidence says that the dendritic cell is exploited by the AIDS virus to be carried inside the body and to replicate to large numbers. But there's another side to the coin, a second side, which is that dendritic cells can be used to design preventions and therapies for disease. We have been studying how the AIDS virus interacts with dendritic cells, how the AIDS virus uses or exploits the dendritic cells for its own purposes, to move about the body and to replicate. And we're also studying the AIDS virus as the premier example of where we need to use immune principles to design vaccines.
So the latest vaccine trial is a very special vaccine that's going to directly find dendritic cells. So the vaccine has a protein in it that knows how to find dendritic cells in the body. And linked to that protein are the proteins from HIV that will induce immunity. So the combination of those two proteins together know how to find the dendritic cells and then bring the special HIV protein or the antigen to them, which will allow the dendritic cells to induce immunity. We are in the early phases of testing novel vaccine candidates. So any vaccine that isn't licensed is referred to as a vaccine candidate. And in order to do that, we have to have human volunteers come forward and roll up their sleeves and be inoculated with a novel construct that's not been in people yet. And that really requires a huge commitment and a fair amount of bravery.
It's hard to say, which is and which isn't.
We've now conducted 3 HIV vaccine trials. And unlike many other places in the country, we've been very fortunate in having a robust response from people, normal human volunteers, people at low risk, who are coming forward really quite altruistically and receive our experimental vaccine constructs.
Well, basically, I saw an ad in one of the Metro newsletters that you get in the morning before you jump on the subway, and I saw the ad advertising for that they needed patients to participate in a trial vaccine. So I thought I'd give it a try.
So about 40% of the people who volunteer in our trials are people who have been directly affected by the epidemic. And for that reason, New York is a particularly special place because there were more cases of HIV/AIDS in New York than any other city in the developed world.
HIV/AIDS is a very serious epidemic, and we have to do whatever it is we can to help fight it. So on that note, I just wanted to do my part.